Today we're back again with another opinionated video. This here is a Fujifilm X100S, the not so popular brother to the X100V. Now today's video is about Fujifilm cameras and how do we select which ones become the classics, which ones become the most popular. Why is this camera not as popular as X100V? So we have three bodies to look over today, and I just want to kind of get your opinions on what you think could possibly be a modern classic if it's not already developing into a classic already. So we have the X100S, we have the Fujifilm X-E2, and we have the X Pro 2. Now you'll probably notice something similar between all three of these cameras. They're all of the rangefinder styling, which means that the viewfinder's off to one side over here. So let's start off with the older cameras first, which, believe it or not, I believe is the X100S. Then we've got the X-E2. So these were announced and I think supplied in 2013. And then the X Pro 2, which actually tends to have an older look to it. I believe this one came out in 2016. In terms of the specs and everything inside, they're all quite similar to each other, but we won't be going over that today. We're just going to be going over the looks of the cameras, and then I want you guys to decide which you think is the most aesthetically pleasing, and also which you think could possibly be the modern classic. So let's start off with the X Pro 2. So here we have it. This is the X Pro 2. We've got pretty similar looks to what we're normally used to with Fujifilm. Let's just get you guys in focus. We have our selection here for manual, continuous, and single focus. A release button here to release our cap or lens to show the sensor. Now, out of all three of these cameras, we have two that are interchangeable lens cameras, and we have one which is a fixed lens camera, which is the X100S. As you can see here, we have a special viewfinder. It's both optical and it is digital at the same time, which is quite unique. So it's quite a nice look to this thing. Let's just make sure we have complete focus here for you guys. So that's the front face here of our X Pro 2. Moving on to the side, we have our flaps that open up. It's an older camera, so we don't see USB-C or anything like that. We just have our normal micro HDMI, normal USB, micro, I believe, and then underneath that, I think it's a remote or a mic port there. Control wheel here for the viewfinder. And at the back here, have a quite simplified, nice look to it. Now, the new versions of this camera, I believe, have a hidden screen, which make them quite unique. So if we can get our hands on the X Pro 3 for you guys, I think that may sneak into the modern classic cameras. We can see here that somebody's added a thumb grip on top of this one. Moving around to the camera, here we can see we have two card slots. Now the internet tells us that this was actually the first mirrorless camera to have two card slots. I'm not sure how true that is, but Wikipedia's never wrong, is it? Looking at the top of the camera here, we can see there's not too many dials. We have our speed here, we have our exposure compensation, our power, and the function button. So that's the X Pro 2. Let's take a look at the X-E2. So this is the X-E2. It actually looks pretty similar, but what you'll notice now is we do not have a optical viewfinder here. This one is purely digital. We have our release button down here once again, which can show us our sensor inside. And then our normal dial there, same as before. As we move to the side here, flaps open up. And now we have a larger HDMI. This is like the mid-size ones. Then we have another remote or microphone slot there, socket, sorry. And then we have the USB socket down below, just there. And at the back, it's also very minimal. I think this is kind of the style of Fujifilm, to not flood it with so many buttons at the back, but mainly try to push those towards the top. So Let's see what card slots we have with this one. I believe the card slots are hidden where the battery is. So we have one single card that goes into this one. And at the top, we have our same dials that we've gotten used to. Nice looking camera. I feel it looks very similar to the X Pro 2, if not a baby version, which I believe this possibly could be. Let's move on to our final camera and take a look at that one. So this is our X100S. It is quite iconic looking, the silver and the black. It's pretty nice to look at. Let's take off this front cap. Now we have a fixed lens on this one. This camera is pretty perfect for just popping into your bag, doing what you need to do. It's already got that fixed lens. The fixed lens that's on this is a 23mm equivalent. Oh, sorry, not equivalent. It's a 23mm, which will be about a 35mm equivalent. We can see we've got our dials on the top here as well for aperture, which I'll turn. Really nice looking camera. And we have our optical viewfinder. Flash in the central position on this one. Really nice. This obviously doubles up as a digital as well. And they've moved the dials here to the side, which I think is quite nice. It even looks more vintage this way as well. So we've got our AFS, AFC, and MF there. There is no connections here on the side of this camera. At the back, a little bit different. I'd say this has a little bit more of a modern feel than the others in terms of now we've got color buttons on here. The dial is a little bit different. Let's just quickly take a look at the XE2. As you can see there, the playback button, there's no colors or anything going on. Whereas here, there's some colors, which kind of, I think it places it in a different time era just by having a bit of color there, but just opinions. Continuing on, a fixed screen, as all the others are. There's no rotating screens on these ones. Some plastic dials on this, and then we go to the top where it's what we're kind of used to here. Same kind of buttons. The overall feel of this camera is quite solid, but it's not as solid as the other two, I will say that. Even the XE2 has more of a heavier, weightier feel than this X100S, and the X Pro feels like an absolute tank. Moving on to the side here, and this is where we have our ports. We have our HDMI there, and then we have an old school USB connection. Quite interesting to see. So that means the card slot will be down here at the bottom. As you can see, pops into there. So those are our three cameras. X100S, XE2, and X Pro 2. As of all three of these cameras, which one would you say could possibly be a modern classic? Give me your answers in the comments below. Thanks for watching.